Welcome back to Cajun Coding. This is St. Raz again, and we are learning Java on Codingbat. Now this is the warm-up section of exercises, and we're moving on to the second one. As you can see, we finished sleep in last episode. It's got the green check mark there. And we're moving on to monkey trouble. Now, as I said in the previous exercises, we don't want you guys to just use this as a way to copy and paste stuff into that function to get that green check mark. We're looking to learn, not just get that green check mark there. So I do hope you're visiting for one of two reasons. One, you really tried this exercise and just got stuck and don't want to stay stuck there. You want to get unstuck, learn how to complete the exercise, fill in those gaps in your knowledge there and move on to learn more later. Or you've done the exercises, you found a solution to this exercise, and you want to see if the solution I have is different. We're probably going to go over a few of them there. You can learn a lot by seeing alternate solutions, different ways to approach problems. There's not just one size fits all solution there. So here we are, monkey trouble. We have two monkeys, A and B, and the parameters A smile and B smile indicate if each is smiling. We are in trouble if they're both smiling or if neither of them is smiling. Return true if we are in trouble. And as we hear, we've got the declaration for the function there. Public is always, pretty much always true in the cases in these exercises. There are protected and private modifiers in the Java language. We're not going to get to that right now. But the return type right here, Boolean, okay, it says return true if we're in trouble. If we're not in trouble, then it's going to be returning false. So that's our return type. The name of the function, monkey trouble. And then inside the parentheses here, these are our values that are being passed in. They're both Boolean, as you can see. And the parameters are A smile and B smile for each of the monkeys there. Now it says return true if we're in trouble. We're in trouble if they're both smiling or if neither of them are smiling, or neither of them is smiling. My grammar lacks sometimes. Now what I'm going to show you is the solution that is simplest in terms of human reasoning. Sometimes we call this a naive solution. So if they are both smiling, we're in trouble. So if A smile equals true and B smile equals true, return true. Okay, so what we have here, and I believe this should work. There we go. That's correct. Now, this is a naive solution. This isn't the best solution in terms of programming, but it does work, and it's very easy to understand. If A smile is true and B smile is true, return true. They're both smiling. Or if A smile equals false and B smile equals false, in other words, neither of them is smiling, then we're also in trouble, return true. Now you see here we've got this if block here. There's no else statement here, which means that if this resolves to false, then it does not execute the code block here and just goes to the next one. You can have an if following an if following an if, however many times you need, and they don't have to be if else's. Now, if neither this is true nor this is true, then we fall through to return false. And this is one of the things you should know about Java. Once you return a value, that function is finished. If a function is programmed to return a value and you have conditionals like this and returns the value, none of the code after that point is going to be executed. So if neither of the monkeys is smiling here, okay, if neither of them is smiling, this return statement executes. When this return statement executes, then it kicks out this function has returned a value, so it's never going to execute this line of code. It's not going to get there. A function can only return one time. Now it may return a Boolean, as in now, or it may return a string. It may return an integer, but it can only return one time. So if it returns inside the middle of a block of code, then none of the code below that return statement is going to do anything. Okay. Now there's different ways to do this. Okay, now it says if they're both smiling or if neither of them is smiling. Okay, well, that's pretty much the same thing, basically, as saying if those values are the same. So if A smile equals B smile, return true. And that does work. Now that refresh actually executed this again. So if we change this, if we change it to not equal, remember our bang operator, the not operator, okay, is false. See, so it's not, the page is refreshing, it is running our code again, just in case you're wondering. So if A smile equals B smile, doesn't matter whether they're both true or they're both false, then it's going to return true. And now remember earlier we could get rid of the if entirely, and we could just do return A smile equals B smile. Now what we're doing is, if A smile is true and B smile is true, then the statement A smile equals B smile is true. So it's just going to return that Boolean as being true. We're in trouble. If A smile is true and B smile is false, then the statement A smile equals B smile, true equals false, that statement is false, so it returns false. So that works as well. And their solution, what was their solution? Right there. Oh, and you notice that they didn't use the A smile equals true, B smile. We're just using true and true, return true, or not true and not true equals true, and then return false behind that. Or the very short version, which is the one I just showed there. Okay, so we're only 8 minutes in to this one, about 8.5 minutes in. So I told you things were going to speed up a little bit. So we'll go to the next exercise. Sum double. Given two integer values, return their sum. Unless the two values are the same, then return double their sum. Okay. There's different ways to do this. So let's go ahead and let's start with our if and check to see if they're the same. Okay, so if A, okay, and we're going to do our else here. Notice an if statement is making a check, so there's going to be parentheses with a statement inside that's going to resolve to either true or false. For the else, there's no check, so you don't have parentheses here. In both cases, you have these braces, the opening, closing curly braces. Okay, and what I did was I set up our if and our else before filling in anything here. Okay, so if the values are the same, return double their sum. Okay, if they're not the same, we just return their sum. Let's do this bottom one first. It's the simpler case. So they're not the same, so return their sum. So we're going to return, and to return the sum, we just do this. Return A and then the plus sign, that's just the addition operator. return the value of A plus the value of B. And the return type is going to be an integer. As you notice, the return type is here, the name of the function, and then these are our inputs, A and B, and the data type of the inputs are also integers. So we'll also return A plus B. Now if they are the same, then return double their sum. So we're going to here return 2 times A plus B. Now the order of operations rules that you learned in grade school or middle school, those apply in the compiler as well. Okay, so these parentheses are important. You don't always have to enclose everything in parentheses, but if you do this, we're going to have some of the tests fail because multiplication is performed first, and it says return double the sum. That means we're going to sum them and then double that sum like that. And their solution, I'm sure, is very likely okay. This is actually different, a little bit of a different solution here. What we're going to do is we're going to create the variable sum. Sum equals A plus B. That's our sum. And then if A equals B, then sum equals sum times 2. Okay. Now what we have here is we're going to use the assignment operator. You notice these double equal signs when programmers are talking, when they say equal, they're usually referring to that. If you're checking for a Boolean value or you're checking equality, it's going to use the double equal sign. This does not say that sum equals sum times 2. This is assigning the value to the variable sum of sum times 2. So what we're doing here is if these two are equal, say these are both 2. Okay. If 2 equals 2, 2 does equal 2, therefore we're going to assign sum. Okay, if 2 equals 2, so this is 2, this is 2, so sum is 4. Okay, well then the new value for sum, since 2 equals 2, is going to be 4, 2 plus 2, 4 times 2, which would be 8. So now sum, after this block of code executes, sum would equal to 8. And then we return sum. So we add A plus B. Down here we return sum. If A equaled B, then sum would have been doubled here. If A does not equal B, then we skip this code. So the return value would be what sum was originally established up here. Okay. That one's pretty easy. You can see there's multiple ways to do things. Next exercise, and feel free to try to work this out before watching these. Given an integer, given an int n, return absolute difference between n and 21. Return double the absolute difference if n is over 21. Okay. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to have to use some methods, and really there's no way to go about that. You're going to have to use a method. Now if, and the method that we're going to use here is in the math object, math absolute, and then it's going to be in minus 21 is greater than oops, I did that wrong. Okay, double absolute if n is over, so we're going to n greater than 21, and then we have our code block, and then we have our else block here. Either n is over 21 or n is not over 21. Now if n is not over 21, it says return the absolute difference between n and 21. So we're going to return, and then we're going to return that absolute difference. We use the math object, and we use a method called absolute difference. And what we're going to do is 21 minus n. And what it's going to do is it's going to find out how far apart those are. It's be n minus 21 or 21 minus n. And those are going to resolve to be the same. Now in this case we're going to return, where n is greater than 21, double the difference. And what we can do is we can use 2 times, and then just as below, this entire thing right here, that is going to come up with an integer, a number, and you can perform operations on that number just as if it were a single digit. So 2 times this statement is going to work just the same. So we hit go, and then they're all correct there. Now this at first glance seems kind of complicated. So if you need to look up something there, what we can do is we're going to specify our language, Java. Okay. And then do math ABS and see what we come up with. And Geeks for Geeks is a good site. Tutorials Point is pretty good as well. Where's let me see. Java T Point is pretty good. There's the 3R schools. Here's Stack Overflow. There's 3M schools. W3 schools, that's it. That's actually a great resource. Okay, now it says the Java Math class, and the Math class in Java is going to contain a lot of information. Basically, your functions allow you to add and and subtract and use different functions like finding the maximum, minimum, things like that. And we've got here is math.abs is for absolute. It returns the absolute value of x. Okay, so if you've got 10 in here, it's going to return 10. If you put negative 10 in here, it's going to be negative 10. And you can also place operations in there. So you've got 21 minus n, then it's going to come up with the absolute value. And since it's the absolute value, note you can also switch those around and it'll run just the same. So I don't have a strong preference. It doesn't really matter what resources you use, but try to find one that works well for you. W3 Schools is good. Now for more sophisticated problems, you might have better luck on Stack Overflow, which is also a good place to find the help you need. And usually as a programmer, you're not going to find an exact answer for your problems, but if you can look into how to use a specific tool, or let's say you knew you needed to find the absolute value, but you weren't sure how to do that, or if you knew it was math.abs, but you weren't sure about the syntax there, that's the kind of thing that you can find. So that gets us into another one there, and that brings us get the first 4, and we'll pick up with parrot trouble next time. And go ahead and try to go as far as you can with these. And if you get stuck, I'm glad to help out. Thanks for listening, guys, and hope you subscribe, like, and I'll see you next time.